One of the most interesting changes seen with the Mandela effect are the ones in human anatomy, because these changes affect all of us. Many of the Mandela effect changes seem random, but the changes to our body, almost all, are clearly improvements. We are now more flexible, have more endurance, and get less injuries. Things are still changing, so here is a small list of the changes plus an added bonus video with the residue from the old times. The heart is now in the center of the chest, just slightly to the left. The kidneys have now moved up under the ribs instead of the lower back. The liver is now much bigger and higher. The stomach is now on the left side and changing shape. The lungs are now much higher and closer to the clavicle bone. Here are many skeleton changes. The spine is now 2 to 3 times as broad. The elbow joint has become more closely locked together. There are knuckles on your ribs to both sides of the spine, making them more difficult to break. The hip bone now is angled diagonally. The cervical vertebrae in your neck are almost twice as broad now and much more solid. The collarbone in the front has come up higher. The shoulder joint has become more complex. The finger bones have gotten slightly more slender. Ribs on the front of the rib cage. The bones of the pelvis have become a much more solid, stronger structure. Here are many skull changes. The chin in many people has become slightly more strong and square. The eyes now have bone all the way behind it. The nose, which used to be all cartilage, now has a bone running vertically through it. There are now ridges at the bottom of your skull, making it harder to damage your brain. There are indents in the bone structure around your temple, so that the rest of your skull absorbs the shock if you fall sideward. Your mouth has slightly more space for teeth, making it easier for the wisdom teeth to fit. Here is a small video with residue about the skull showing the old way. The full video is on the description and it was added to YouTube 9 years ago.
The human skull is made up of 8 cranial bones that surround and protect the brain, and 14 facial bones that form the underlying structure of the face and support for the teeth. With the exception of the mandible, the bones of the skull articulate with each other through joints known as sutures. Throughout the skull, holes known as foramina serve as passageways for blood vessels and nerves. Bones on the surface of the skull encase the brain, protect sensory organs, and serve as attachment sites for the muscles of the head and neck. These bones include the occipital bone, parietal bones, temporal bones, and the frontal bone, as well as the nasal bones, the zygomatic bones, the maxilla, and the mandible.
It's clear to see that the changes to human anatomy are improvements and upgrades. The question is, Are we getting ready for a changed future?